Hey guys, yesterday in our time lapse I demonstrated how to draw a pine bough. Today I'm going to show you step by step how it's done, and then we'll talk about trees and wreaths. So to begin with, you want to start with at least 3 greens, and I'm using Crayola's Super Tip 100 marker set. These techniques will work with color pencils, crayons. You might want to vary how you approach this with watercolor, but it's a pretty versatile technique. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch in the branches, and it's really just going to be sticks. You've got the main branch, and then you're going to have little sub branches coming off the main branch like this. And then you're going to have even smaller branches coming off of those sub branches. Next, I'm going to use the same marker and I'm going to fill it in with pine needles or fir needles. And that's really easy to do. It just takes time. It's just simple, short strokes coming off of each branch on both sides, all going in the same direction. And if some of them are too short, you can go back and lengthen them. So I'm going to do that to all of the branches in this drawing. Now the whole thing has been filled in. I'm going to take a red and I'm going to draw in little circles to look like berries here and there along the branches, because you often see, it doesn't really happen in nature, but you often see with holiday decorations that they include these little red berries amongst their greenery, and that is because one, red and green are, of course, Christmas colors. They are the colors traditionally associated with Christmas. But two, they're also contrasting colors, and the combination of the two is very visually interesting, and it grabs attention. And I'm mostly just using the side of my Super Tip to add those in. And your marker will get a little bit dirty, but you can clean that off on a scrap piece of paper. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start shading my pine with a darker green, and you might want to give it a few minutes if you have them to let your first layer dry. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And then we're going to go into those red berries with our next darker red, and just like we did with some of our ornaments, I'm going to add a little circle towards the bottom of darker red, which will make it look like the light's hitting it and casting a shadow. And then we're going to go in with our darkest green. And so with the mid-tone green, which is the middle color green that we're using, I shaded mostly towards the bottom or where the branches meet the main branch. With this, I'm going to cover even less area, because as you add shadow or darker colors, you want to progressively cover less and less area. If you were always covering the same area, then it wouldn't really look like shadow, you know? So I'm just putting a few in here and there with that darkest green. And then with my darkest red, I'm just going to add a tiny circle at the bottom of each of the berries. And then finally, just here and there, I'm going to use a brown marker to follow the spine of the branch and give the illusion that there is a tree under there. And you don't want to do it along the whole branch because it's not going to look particularly good. Doing it just here and there is a good little hint without it getting to be too much. So I'm going to show you guys how to plan a simple wreath next. On a cylindrical object, so you could use, this is just a spool for tape. You can use a cup, anything that's round, you can use a bowl, and we're going to trace along the outside of it. Let me reposition that using our marker. And you can go all the way around if you want, but I'm going to leave the bottom open because I'm going to draw in a bow. And we talked about drawing bows earlier this week. So if you need a refresher on that, you can go check that out. And we're going to let that bow dry, and we're going to fill this in with little branches, just like we did with the larger pine bough, and they're all going to follow along this circle. And you can either have them all going in the same direction, or you can stop in the middle and then come from the other direction. And then I'm going to fill the whole thing in with very, very tiny little needles. And those are just super, as fine as I can get it, super fine little marker strokes going all the way around and then also going on all of the branches. Now we have our basic wreath. If you want, you could stop at this point, but I'm going to draw in some red balls, and that could be ornaments or that could be berries, depending on what you want it to be. And then I'm going to go ahead and darken up, add some shadow to the red bow I drew at the beginning. Give that a chance to dry. Add some shadow to my red ornaments. I'm also going to add in some smaller, darker red dots here, just for visual interest. Then I'm going to add in just a little bit, not too much because we don't want that to become overwhelming, a little bit of this darker green. Mostly towards the bottom of the wreath. And then finally, we're going to use our darkest red to add a little bit of shadow again to our red bow there at the bottom. And there you guys have a basic Christmas wreath. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you some other types of wreaths you can draw, as well as perhaps some swag or other branch-based seasonal decoration. So I hope you guys will come hang out with me again tomorrow, and I hope you guys are having a really good time drawing your Christmas cards and sending your letters to Santa. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.